Welcome to DG Workshop. Today we're going to look at a first turning, moving from a log to a roughed out bowl. I hope you enjoy this presentation. Here we have half a log that should have been turned into a bowl blank long time ago, but instead it sat for over a year and checked and cracked down the middle. The only thing to do now is try to salvage something out of it, and I'm going to cut it in half to remove the major split. And then this one side that's punky we're going to discard, and the other side we're going to attempt to turn a smaller bowl blank from. Here we are setting up a template on the half of the log so that we can bandsaw around it. Just kind of propping it up here because the get there's a lot of cracks in the end of the log. The hope is that those don't go in more than an inch or two. The dust collector is running right now, along with the bandsaw blade we're using is definitely put in a good service life, and so it's complaining a little bit. It's not the sharpest blade anymore. Setting up now to take this rather strange bowl blank and cut it down to 4.5 inches thick, removing a good portion of the angled top. I wouldn't try this on its side unless there was a significant flat portion like this log or blank has. So we've got our bowl blank, and while I have a center hole on the other side, I'm going to turn this between centers, and so I want a rough indication of the same center hole on the other side. Mounting a stronghold chuck here, and tightening up the set screws to stop it from coming off if you're running it in reverse. Won't be running in reverse during this video, but I don't feel like losing the set screws in the wood chip, so we'll tighten them down anyways. Inserting the one-way drive center that's held in the chuck. For some reason here I didn't open the chuck wide enough, and I fiddled with it, wondering why it wouldn't seat properly until I realized that I didn't needed to open the chuck a little further. And now mounting the bowl blank between centers. Doing your initial turning between centers is convenient when you don't have a real flat side to mount a faceplate on, which there were some significant ripples from the chainsaw on the backside of this blank. So sharpen our gouge to get going. This is a Tormek T8, and using their their setter to set the length, setting it to 65 millimeters. I've taken a black marker and added a little bit of black along the top edge of the gouge so I can see when the top edge is sharp. When all the black's gone, the Tormek has done its job. That's a 600 diamond wheel. I'm now removing the burr on the inside on a leather honing wheel and removing the burr on the outside with a composite wheel. So here I've already gotten rid of the real high sides on the bowl. So we've gone through some of the major thump thump thump, and now we're down to shaping it and put putting a tenon on it. Using a 55-degree bowl gouge here. Examining the bark, making sure that it doesn't look like there's anything loose to come flying off after that first pass. Got that large bark inclusion I want to get rid of, and I need to shape to bring the bottom around down to where eventually the tenon and the foot will be. Lots more still take off here. Move the tool rest in a little. Going more around the bowl this time. Previous cuts were a little straight. Switching to a pull cut here, putting a bit of OG where the foot will eventually be. Even though this is a rough turning, I want to give it some initial shape so I know how thick the bottom is and that I've left room for some form of foot. Using a pull cut here, fairly significant angle on the tool, so it's more like a pulling shear cut. The butt of the tool is actually sitting on the top of my thigh as I go around, and I'm leaning back as I pull it around the corner of the bowl. Now I need to clean up the shoulder for our tenon and then actually cut the recess for the dovetail. I'm raising the tool rest because I'm going to use Glenn Lucas's tenon cutting tool. You don't cut with both edges of the tool at the same time. You first cut the shoulder to get it flat, preferably slightly undercut, and then you use the point to come down the tenon to shape the tenon, and you can see that you've got both correctly shaped when the V of the tool uh, fills the gap. Using a ruler there to check for flat, looking for just a little bit of undercut. There was too much, so I'm taking a little bit off the outside, flattening it out a little bit more. Now I'm going down the edge of the tenon and forming the undercut for the dovetail. Cleaning up the bottom of it using the nose of the tool. And the two wings are both touching. Wondering if I should still take off some more to get rid of that bark inclusion. I'm going to be using a shear cut here. Got to keep the tool real vertical here so that the support of the tool rest is underneath where the tool's making contact. Don't have the tool turned over. It's wide open, riding on the back side of the wing. If you don't have that support under the tool and the tool almost vertical, you're looking at the potential for a nasty catch. Probably doing more shaping than I need to here on a rough turn bowl blank. but I like to know that I've got a reasonable, consistent thickness going down the inside when I do the inside, and without having a shape on the outside. That's hard to tell. And we're finished with the dry spur, so we'll just remove that now. The tenon's been turned slightly oversized. The jaws here are about 1/4 inch open. Um, we, when we do a final turning, we'll resize the tenon down so that it's only about an eighth of an inch open. Um, the oversized tenon allows for the wood to move, and that we'll still have a viable tenon to be able to reshape after it's warped. Keeping the tailstock up for support, especially when I'm first mounted it in the chuck. Never quite certain about the viability of a tenon when you first created it, and it's always safe to use the tailstock. The face of this bowl blank at this point is very rough with the number of chainsaw irregularities in the surface, and here I'm just reducing the depth of it, as opposed to going to left to right across the blanket, hitting the end grain repeatedly. I'm just plunging in repeatedly, and we'll smooth that out later. Cutting with the nose and wing, and you can hear it chip away as I'm hitting those ridges. Just working my way and cutting a series of recesses. Not really worried about if there's any small steps or ridges between those. We'll clean that up with a pull cut here momentarily. Interesting knot or branch in the bowl blank. I think all of that though will just get turned away as we work on the inside. That doesn't seem to come to the outside anywhere. Marking off a width of approximately 10%, the overall diameter of the bowl. In this case, it's just under 1 inch. And you can see I didn't get my surface completely flat here as I went around and snapped my pencil off on a ridge. Got multiple pencils on the sleeve, so just grab another one. Just going to clean up that outside edge a little bit so I've got a nice flat surface. Not going to worry about flattening the rest. Now I'm going to begin by hollowing out by just letting the tool come in and pivoting it against my hip, making a number of steps, remove a significant amount of wood in a short period of time. I'm going to make one push cut here just to establish the initial shape of the bowl so I can see where my rim is. Tool rest moved a little bit there. The top wasn't quite as tight as it needed to be. Now removing a bulk of wood just by pivoting into the wood over and over and creating steps as I'm going down. Just repeating that process again. Making sure I'm going in with the nose and then the wing without catching too much of the wing, avoiding a ugly catch. Just going to double check that it's still tight, that given it's slightly green wood still, that it hasn't shrunk or moved in some way. Well, I've been turning it initially here. Now I can pull the tailstock comfortably out of the way. Okay, now we can use these ridges that we've created so the tool doesn't slip. We just place the tool behind a ridge and begin our push cuts curling towards the center. Take fairly significant cuts here, and as we go down, it goes down fairly cleanly, but as we come across the bottom, we start to hit the end grain on each rotation of the bowl, and so it's taking a significant cut is a little rougher, so stop and take that off in two passes. each time starting the tool in one of those grooves that was created earlier when we were just hogging out the wood by rotating the tool in. You can set up the nose of the tool just in one of the grooves and don't have to worry about it slipping or running back. Measuring the depth down to just above where the OG is for the foot. And I believe it was 4.5 inches, and I want to leave about 3/4 of an inch, so I measure my depth inside. See, I've got lots of wood to go. I think I've got about an inch to go at this point. Increase the speed just a little bit here. Tool's just a little less than half open. Just double checking the depth again here. It's easier to take it off than put it back on. And you can see looking at the inside of the bowl that there's some tool marks. At this point, the tool's gotten reasonably dull and could probably use another sharpening. But I'm going to defer doing that until I've got a little bit more wood hogged out here and we're making our last couple of passes. Could take some calipers, put some green tape on them so I don't scratch bowls that I'm almost finished. Now I've sharpened the tool up. It's got a fresh edge on it. Makes some much thinner passes here. And see the shavings look completely different, much finer. Get the tool started and then rotate it open. Going slow this time, take our time. Watch the cut line, keep it consistent all the way down. Pull the tool back towards us like we're rowing a boat. And here in all the shavings, I lost the edge. So I'm going to just work the tool back and forth, slowly changing the angle till I can just see it start to pick up the cut. Just a little bit of dust coming off it, and then move forward. Now we have our rough turn bowl. And now we just need to wait for it to dry. So to make sure it dries, we're going to hit it with the equivalent of an anchor seal. This is a generic log sealer product. The guild I'm a member of buys it in big 10-gallon pails, and then we redistribute it to club members. So some people selectively seal either just the outside or uh, the end grain, which will lose the moisture. I just liberally cover the whole bowl. I don't worry about trying to identify where the end grain is, or the inside. My goal here is to have the wood dry out slowly so that I can avoid as much cracking as possible. I try to have a series of bowls where I always have bowls that have been first turned that are waiting to be second turned, and they'll wait a year or so to get before they get their second turning. liberally applying it here. The strange table I'm using is actually my the stand I use for when I cut logs up, and it's normally this is the bottom of it, and it's got four posts sticking up in the air. But it makes a versatile stand for doing this type of messy job, and it allows you to kind of set the bowl down in the gap and have it stay there while you're trying to paint the inside. So anchor seal, or in this case log sealer, it's just a wax emulsion, and it dries clear on the bowl and just makes a bit of a waxy surface. It helps on logs to prevent checking, but honestly, your best bet with a log once you've cut it in half and removed the pith is to get turn a bowl blank out of it as soon as possible. You can see here I started with a much larger log, and because I didn't get to it, I ended up having to create this much smaller bowl blank to work around the cracks that were in the log because I left the log sitting much too long. Here's the bowls that I've done recently, and as we move here to the left, these are ones waiting to be turned. Some of those have been there for a couple of years now.